Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my Switch Sports prediction series. This time we're going over something quite exciting, new sports. Now if you haven't checked out part 1, please do so, because that's where I go over 10 sports from the original Wii Sports game that I want to see return, and I also talk about 5 that I don't want to see return. But speaking of 5, I have 5 brand new ideas that I have for sports that I want to see in Switch Sports. So let's talk about these 5, shall we? Now without further ado, let's begin by talking about swimming. Now in the previous video, I mentioned how all the water sports in Wii Sports Resort were kind of boring. Wakeboarding, canoeing, and power cruising. Now to me, the most natural water sport is of course swimming. I could see this kind of controlling like cycling. You move your Joy-Cons in sort of a paddling motion, and if you go too fast, your Mii runs out of stamina. Now I'll admit, cycling wasn't exactly the most exciting sport in Wii Sports Resort, so how can we make swimming a bit spicier? Well, we could have a sort of acceleration boost to start a race if you time it right, just like in Mario Kart. I think you should be able to charge up a superpower meter where if it's fully charged, you activate it and swim like Michael Phelps for a few seconds, or Katie Ledecky, whoever you choose. To me, swimming is superior to the Wii Sports Resort water games because you will be racing against your friend, or if you're by yourself, a bot. So there's an actual race. I get that power cruising and canoeing kind of have a race against a clock, but who cares about that? We want to race against people, not timers. Next, we gotta talk about Dodgeball. Good old Dodgeball. Just like with bowling, I imagine I'm much better at it in video game form than in real life. If you're like me, you've been in a gym class and know what it's like to be hit immediately by a dodgeball as soon as a game starts. I'm glad I'm heading off to college and will never have to deal with that again. I think. Now, with the way Dodgeball normally works, it's one hit and you're out. But Dodgeball is normally played on big teams, not one-on-one. But many Wii Sports games are one-on-one. So I think you should be able to customize how many times you're allowed to get hit by a ball, from 1 up to, let's say, 10. And obviously you can play with more players than just 2. I'd say this is a great game for 8 players. If there's 8 player Smash, there should definitely be 8 player Dodgeball. Imagine how fun that would be. Now this is a nice simple game, I think. It fits the theme of Wii Sports quite well. Here's probably the weirdest of the 5 sports I'm going to talk about today. Water polo. Now I do think there should be multiple water sports because I do want this game to have a Wii Sports Resort-like setting. I'll talk about that more in part 3. Anyway, water polo would be an interesting watery game because it's like soccer in a pool. But because you're in a pool, you obviously use your hands. You pass around the ball trying to score a goal, and a goalie tries to prevent you from scoring goals. I could see this being a 3-on-3 sort of thing, just like in Wii Sports Resort basketball. The goalies would be controlled by bots. Unless, of course, you plan on being a goalie. I do feel like there should be an option for being a goalie, too. And just like with Dodgeball, I think there should be an option for 8 people playing at a time. So you could have up to 4 people on each team with one of them each being a goalie. So anyway, overall, I think this would be a unique idea that in video games probably hasn't been tried that much since water polo is a bit of an obscure sport. But hey, I mean, it is in the Olympics. And speaking of things that are in the Olympics, karate. Well, it was supposed to be in the Olympics this year, but stuff happened. Karate was a featured game in Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, so I figure, why can't it be in Wii Sports? Now there should be 2 game modes for karate. The first one was the one that was in the Mario and Sonic game, and that would be Kumite. Kumite is basically like sparring or a fighting match, and that would kind of be like boxing, except of course you can use kicks now. That's what would make karate an interesting variant to a fighting game. And I also believe there should be a game mode similar to Speed Slice in Swordplay from Wii Sports Resort. But instead, it's speed breaking. I can tell you from personal experience, breaking boards is fun. Breaking 2 boards is even more fun. Breaking 7 boards, well, I've never done that before, but this guy has. So anyway, I basically believe there should be competitive board breaking. Now how would that work? Well, 2 people go up against each other, and whoever breaks the board the fastest wins. The catch is you gotta charge your character up before you break a board. and the amount you need to charge depends on how many boards there is. If you go too early, the boards don't break, and you make this man very, very sad. The last sport idea I have to offer is beach volleyball. For anyone upset that I didn't include tennis in the last video, I hope this makes you feel better. Volleyball is similar in that it is a netted sport that requires putting a ball over said net. But volleyball to me is just cooler than tennis. There's aggressive spiking involved, you don't have to carry a racket around. And guess what? We can have it at the beach if we want to keep with that Wii Sports Resort theme. Anyway, I'm sure you're all aware of the rules of volleyball. You bump, set, and spike the ball, and hopefully don't just straight up hit it into your own net, like me. Anyway, volleyball and dodgeball were both parts of a game I really liked called Mario Sports Mix. So those are both sports I'd really like to see back in Switch Sports. So to recap, the 5 new sports I'd like to see in Switch Sports are swimming, dodgeball, water polo, karate, and beach volleyball. Now you might be wondering, Waluigi, we all know your favorite sport is football, American football that is. Why wouldn't you include that? Well, it's too freaking complicated a game for Wii Sports in my opinion. Wii Sports is meant to be, I know this is Switch Sports really, but so Switch Sports is meant to be simple and fun for everyone. It's not meant to be about deliberating whether to play man or zone coverage. Anyway, what ideas for sports would you guys have? And let me know in the comments what you think of the 15 overall sports that I'd like to see in Switch Sports. Bye bye.